When Prince Harry agreed to sit down for a BBC HardTalk interview, the production team expected tension, but no one foresaw an eruption. The studio, normally calm, clinical, controlled, was about to witness a confrontation that would ripple across headlines for weeks. Sharp questions, sharper ego, and zero patience. And by the end of the interview, Stephen Sackur would do something unprecedented in his decades-long career. Ask a royal guest to leave. This is where it all began. The HardTalk studio that day wasn't the usual black box set. Because of scheduling and security limitations, the interview had been moved to a private high-ceiling salon. Quiet, warmly lit, and deceptively peaceful. 2 wooden chairs placed directly across from each other, a tall window draped in soft beige curtains, a patterned rug muted and traditional grounding the room. 2 paintings hung behind each man, their colors warm but somber. Stephen Sackur sat on the left, precise posture, suit sharp, glasses glinting in the light. His hands rested over a folder of meticulously prepared questions, the kind that didn't bend, the kind that didn't soften for anyone, not even royalty. Across from him sat Prince Harry. He wore a fitted gray suit and white shirt, no tie, top button undone, projecting a mixture of casual indifference and performed restraint, his jaw set forward, shoulders stiff, eyes showing that familiar irritation he no longer tried to hide. Before cameras rolled, there was no small talk, no greeting, no easing in, just silence and a subtle tension vibrating in the air. Stephen finally broke it. "Are you ready, Harry?" Harry's eyes flicked up, unimpressed. "I'm His Royal Highness, actually." Stephen didn't blink. "Not in this interview. You aren't." A muscle twitched in Harry's cheek. The director signaled. Cameras rolled and Stephen began. "Calm, surgical, unflinching Prince Harry," he said with the polite firmness only Stephen Sackur possessed. "Thank you for being here." Harry crossed his legs, leaning back with a sigh. "Let's just get on with it." Stephen's eyebrows rose a millimeter, but he continued smoothly. "You've described the royal institution as toxic. You've said it harmed your mental health, restricted your freedom, and failed to protect you. Yet critics say you continue to leverage your royal identity whenever it benefits you. What do you say to them?" Harry let out a short, scoffing laugh. "I say critics are irrelevant. They can't begin to understand my experience." "It's not about understanding your experience," Steve countered. "It's about consistency. On one hand, you condemn the monarchy. On the other, you profit from the fame it gave you." Harry's lips tightened. "Is this the angle we're taking?" "Already." Stephen didn't flinch. "This is HardTalk. I don't do angles. I do questions." Harry leaned forward sharply. "Yes, and I'm noticing they're the wrong ones." There was a rustling behind the cameras, producers shifting, exchanging wary glances. Stephen remained composed. "All right then," he said calmly. "Let's try a simpler question. What do you want people to understand about you that they consistently get wrong?" Harry exhaled loudly, eyes rolling upward as though the question itself was beneath him. "That I'm not responsible for their fantasies. People want a perfect prince. I'm not that. I left that life. I owe no one an explanation for making my own choices." Stephen nodded slowly. "But you do seek public sympathy, do you not? You publish memoirs, appear in documentaries, give interviews like this one." Harry's voice sharpened instantly. "No, I tell my story. That's not the same thing." Stephen tilted his head slightly. "Isn't it?" Harry's jaw hardened again. "This is exactly why people hesitate to speak out," Harry snapped. "Every time someone tries to reclaim their narrative, journalists try to twist it." "Harry," Stephen said evenly, "you've released more public statements about your personal grievances than any royal in modern history. It's fair to ask why." Harry sat up straighter, eyes narrowing. "And I'm telling you, you're asking the wrong questions." A long pause cut through the room. Stephen folded his hands, unreadable expression on his face. "All right," he said finally. "Then let's talk about your move to the United States. Many people have noted that you left the royal family to seek privacy, yet you signed deals with major streaming platforms." Harry cut in sharply. "Oh, here we go again. The privacy myth. I've explained this 1,000 times." "And yet," Stephen replied, calm as still water, "your actions continue to contradict your statements." Harry scoffed loudly, shaking his head. "Do you even listen, or do you just wait for your turn to speak?" A ripple went through the crew. Sound operator glancing nervously at the producer who whispered something under her breath. Stephen didn't break. "My job," he said, "is to ask difficult questions. Your job is to answer them. If you're prepared to do that, we can continue. If you aren't. Harry cut him off. Oh, I'm prepared. I'm just tired of re-educating journalists who refuse to evolve. Stephen's yes flickered just once. Well then, he said calmly. This is going to be an interesting interview. The tension, already thick, tightened further, almost visible between them. The real confrontation was only beginning. The soft lamps along the cream-colored walls glowed warmly, but nothing in the room felt warm anymore. The light behind the curtain turned the window into a pale rectangle, like a spotlight frozen in mid-air. Two men sat in the center of it all, one carved from patience, the other from thinly veiled fury. Stephen glanced once at his notes, then looked back at Harry. Let's go back, he said. Before California, before streaming deals, before the memoir, when people first got to know you, they saw the young prince walking behind his mother's coffin. They saw a boy the world pied and adored at the same time. Do you ever feel you've weaponized that sympathy? Harry's eyes hardened instantly. Excuse me? It's a straightforward question, Stephen replied calmly. You've spoken often about your trauma, about what Diana's death did to you. Some critics argue that you return to that pain publicly again and again, not just to heal, but to justify every decision you make. Is that fair? Harry's jaw clenched, his fingers laced tightly together in his lap. My mother's death is not a narrative device, he said coldly. It's my life. The fact that anyone can frame it as weaponizing says more about them than about me. Stephen nodded, face neutral. And yet, he continued, every time you're challenged by the press, by your family, by public opinion, you refer back to it. This is why I left. This is why I distrust the palace. This is why I hate the press. Do you worry that you're trapped in that moment, unable to move beyond being that grieving boy? Harry's lips curled into a humorless smile. You really enjoy cutting people open on this program, don't you? This program, Stephen said evenly, asks what others are afraid to ask. Harry leaned forward slightly, his voice low and pointed. I am not trapped, I am informed. My childhood taught me exactly what institutions and media can do when left unchecked. If I bring up the past, it's because people insist on repeating it. Stephen held his gaze for a long moment. Or, he said quietly, because it keeps you at the center of it. The air shifted. Someone behind the camera shifted their weight. A floorboard creaked loudly in the silence that followed. Harry's nostrils flared. You're implying I enjoy being the victim, he said. I'm asking, Stephen corrected. There's a difference, Harry scoffed. People love that word, victim. It's a lazy way to dismiss someone's pain. Label them, then you don't have to listen. Stephen tilted his head. And do you ever listen, Harry, to people who feel let down by you? To veterans who felt blindsided by some of the things you wrote about your time in Afghanistan? To staff members who say you and your wife made their lives miserable? A flicker of real anger flashed across Harry's face. That's rich, he said. You sit there cushioned by the BBC invoking anonymous staff members as if gossip is evidence. These aren't just gossip columns, Stephen replied quietly. These are formal complaints, testimonies, people who worked closely with you. They worked for Ed, the institution, Harry snapped. Not for me, and we both know where their loyalties lie. Stephen let the words hang, then moved on with surgical precision. Let's talk about your military service, he said. You've spoken proudly about being on the front line, about your comrades, about the normality you found there. In your memoir, you described enemy combatants in a way that many felt was dehumanizing. Do you regret that? Harry's expression shifted into something between annoyance and boredom. No, he said bluntly. Stephen raised an eyebrow. You don't regret describing the people you killed as chess pieces removed from the board? Harry shrugged. It's how we're trained to think. It's how you cope. Anyone pretending they don't compartmentalize is lying. But of course, the media cherry-picked a few lines to turn into outrage. It's predictable. Stephen steadied his gaze. It wasn't just the media. Veterans groups, former officers, people who admire you, they expressed discomfort too. Are they all just predictable as well? Harry smiled thinly. People love a scandal. Give them a line out of context and they'll run with it. I'm not here to babysit their interpretations. Or Stephen said slowly, to take responsibility for the impact of your words. Harry's hands tightened on his knee. The impact of my words, he said sharply, is nothing compared to the impact of being shot at in a war zone while cameras back home debate whether I'm a real soldier or a mascot. Where were all these moral guardians then? Stephen allowed himself a measured breath. This isn't about your courage on the battlefield, he said. It's about how you talk about it now. You've asked the world to see your humanity. Do you extend the same courtesy to those you fought? Harry bristled. I did what I had to do. I made peace with it. I don't need your philosophical lectures on morality. The room felt smaller now. The curtain seemed to close and the light behind it flattening into a harsh rectangle. Stephen changed his tack. Let's bring this into the present. He said, your critics say you speak of compassion, yet lash out at anyone who questions you. They say you demand understanding, but offer very little in return. Do you see any truth in that? Harry let out a humorless laugh. Critics again. Funny how they're never in the room, yet you speak for them. I'm not speaking for them, Stephen replied. I'm putting their concerns to you. That's what this program does. Harry's gaze sharpened. No, what this program does, he said slowly, is put people in a chair and chip away until they either break or say something you can turn into a headline. I've watched HardTalk before. You're not subtle. And yet you agreed to come, Stephen said. I came, Harry replied, because occasionally I like to remind myself why I don't trust your industry. A brittle chuckle broke out from somewhere near the back of the room. Quickly smothered. The director made a small cutting motion to the crew. Stay silent. Stephen didn't react to the dig. If anything, his voice grew even calmer. Let's talk about Megan, he said. Harry's posture shifted, a slight, almost imperceptible tightening as if a wire had been pulled through his spine. Here it is, Harry muttered. The obsession. You brought her into the public narrative, Stephen said, unfazed. You've described her as saving you from an institution you couldn't survive. Do you accept that in doing so you've also made her central to this story? She's central to my life, Harry shot back. That doesn't give the world the right to dissect her. And yet, Stephen continued, you've done Netflix series, podcasts, public appearances. Harry snapped. Do you ever update your material? He demanded. Or do you just recycle talking points until the audience claps? A charged silence dropped into the room. Stephen's eyes hardened just a fraction. My job is not to make the audience clap, he said. It's to ask what many are thinking but cannot ask you directly. And maybe, Harry replied coldly, they don't deserve an answer. The crew exchanged looks again. One camera operator swallowed hard. Stephen held Harry's gaze. You say you want to break cycles, he said quietly. But what I'm seeing is a man who refuses to be questioned. A man who demands empathy but meets scrutiny with contempt. Harry's laugh was sharp, humorless. You don't know what I demand, he said. You know what you project onto me. The tension in the air felt almost physical now, pressing against the walls, the furniture, the glass, and the frames. Stephen tapped his notes lightly with his forefinger. We're going to take this deeper, he said slowly, because there's a question many people are asking, whether you like it or not. Harry's eyes narrowed. By all means, he said, let's hear the big, clever question. Stephen inhaled once, then leaned forward. Are you, he asked, truly seeking healing, or are you addicted to the drama of your own rebellion? The words landed like a crack of thunder in the small room. Harry's expression froze. The crew knew instantly that they had reached a line. Whether it would be crossed or shattered was about to become painfully clear. For a second, neither man spoke. Stephen's question, sharp, unforgiving, echoing with quiet accusation, hung in the air. Even the faint hum of the overhead light seemed to dim beneath it. Harry inhaled sharply through his nose. Addicted to the drama, he repeated, voice dangerously low. That's what you think this is. Stephen didn't blink. I'm asking whether you've become so used to conflict, so used to being at the center of a storm that you subconsciously recreate one wherever you go. Harry leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing, an incredulous laugh slipping out. You sit here in your tidy BBC studio setup behind your notes and your glasses, judging my life as if it's a chessboard you can decode in an hour. You have no idea what I've lived through. I'm not claiming to, Stephen answered steadily. I'm inviting you to reflect on how your actions look from the outside. Harry's jaw tightened. From the outside, he said, my entire existence has been a public spectacle. Every move I make is scrutinized, twisted, reframed, weaponized. And now you, just like the tabloids, suggest I'm addicted to it, that I seek it out. I'm saying, Stephen replied, you may not realize how your choices create a cycle you claim to be trying to escape. Harry's eyes flashed. What cycle am I escaping? The monarchy, the press, the public. His voice rose. You all still talk about me, still chase me, still dig into my life? Leaving Britain didn't change that. Coming here didn't change that. Sitting in this room clearly hasn't changed that. He gestured lightly around the set, just enough movement to underline the bitterness. You want me to be quiet, you want me to disappear, and then you blame me when I don't. Stephen's expression remained maddeningly composed. I want clarity, he said. Not disappearance, not silence, just clear, honest accountability from someone who demands it of others. Harry's glare sharpened. And what exactly am I supposed to be accountable for? For speaking my truth? For protecting my family? For pointing out hypocrisy? For acting, Stephen said calmly, as though every conflict in your life is someone else's fault. Harry blinked, stunned for a moment. Then a tight, humorless smile spread across his face. Ah, he said quietly. There it is. The royal family's favorite line. The press's favorite line. Harry never takes responsibility. Funny how everyone loves that refrain except the people who actually know what happened behind closed doors. Stephen didn't move. Then explain it, he said, here now. Without blaming institutions, the press, or your upbringing, what responsibility do you take for the estrangement, for the fallout, for the chaos surrounding your life? Another painful silence. Harry exhaled through his teeth, anger coiling in his shoulders. You want a neat little confession, he said. A soundbite, something tidy you can package for your viewers. But life isn't tidy, trauma isn't tidy, healing isn't tidy, and I don't owe you or anyone else a guilt performance just to make you feel better about my decisions. Stephen sat poised, unbothered. I'm not asking you to perform guilt, he replied. I'm asking you to acknowledge complexity. Harry scoffed. Complexity? This conversation is about as complex as a headline. Stephen recrossed his legs, his tone tightening by a single degree. Let's shift the angle, he said. Your critics say you make strong accusations, racism, conspiracies, cruelty, manipulation, but when confronted with questions, you retreat into vague language. My truth, my experience, my pain. Do you understand why people find that difficult to examine? Harry's eyes sharpened again. My truth is my truth. That phrase, Stephen said lightly, is often used when someone cannot produce evidence. Harry stiffened. You think my life needs evidence? That my feelings need evidence? I think, Stephen replied, that when you make claims affecting institutions, reputations, and real people, clarity matters. Precision matters. Otherwise, the public is left with hearsay. Harry massaged the bridge of his nose.